So in previous videos, I talked about the different techniques used by Hollywood that brands can learn from in order to tell stories. But the most important thing actually is not just the techniques, but also understanding the role of the brand itself in those stories. Now today I'm going to talk about how you sustain and grow an audience as a brand. And the good news is that even though I talk a lot about Hollywood examples, brands don't really need Hollywood level budgets. There are some really great examples of how brands like GE, for example, or Schneider Electric grow and sustain their audience purely on a news portal, right, which they maintain and are able to attract and keep bringing audiences back to, just because they understand their target audience very, very well. One of the most common questions I get from people with regard to content marketing is when they tell me, oh, you know, I have a B2B audience, I have a very niche audience, I don't think I can really produce any interesting content. Well, on the contrary, the smaller your audience is, the likelier you are to understand what their needs are and understand what their pain points are. And the smaller your audience, the more likely you are as well to really be able to get to know the audience. Just compare, for example, how well a B2B company with, say, a target audience of, say, software engineers would really be able to understand that niche market, as opposed to, say, a big brand like Coca-Cola that pretty much has to appeal to everybody in the world. So I really see niche audiences as an opportunity, especially in the B2B space. Now let me talk to you about my favorite example of building an audience and being able to pull a lot of enthusiasm and passion from this audience, from even an SME brand. So let me introduce you to my friend Mark. Now when I say my friend, I've never actually met Mark. In fact, I've never even corresponded with him or have any kind of contact with him whatsoever, apart from his YouTube videos. Now I've been following the YouTube channel of the Long Island Watch Company for several months now. So he puts out maybe 1 or 2 videos a week, and he just features, for the most part, watches that he sells in his online store. But the interesting thing about how Mark does his content is that he doesn't talk about it in terms of like, this is my latest product, this is how much I'm selling it for, if you buy it within this certain period you get a discount of X. No, that's not what Mark's content is about. Mark's content is about things like, in a diver's watch, what is a helium valve for? Or what is the difference between hardlex, mineral crystal, or sapphire crystal, right? So in other words, if you're talking to a very niche audience, in this case, watch nerds like myself, this is the kind of content that people like me are really, really interested in and will loyally watch. And because the content and the stuff that Mark talks about is so interesting and so valuable, we keep coming back for more. So recently I bought a watch from Mark. Not a fancy watch, but it still cost about $1,380 US, right? And when I bought the watch, it got me thinking, now how many videos of Mark's did I watch before I finally decided to buy a watch from him? And I think it's about somewhere between 50 and 60 videos. Now let's be conservative and say every 100 video views somebody's going to buy a watch. How many videos do you think the Long Island Watch Company's YouTube channel has? Would it surprise you to know that that little YouTube channel has 9 million views? So Mark has 50,000 subscribers and 9 million video views. And if you think about, you know, that kind of return on investment, where every 100 or so videos, there's probably somebody buying a watch, it really gets you thinking and really gets you to understand the value of content marketing and the value of having your own audience. Now, if you look at Mark's videos, actually, there's nothing special about his production value. He has 2 setups. One is him talking to camera in his living room, and I can tell it's his living room because I can see part of his wall and a little bit of his window. And the second setup he has is just a plain white table where he handles the watches with a pair of white gloves. That's it. That's like a production cost of almost 0, and yet he's able to attract this very, very loyal, passionate audience of, again, 50,000 subscribers and over 9 million video views. Now that's pretty amazing, and that should tell you a lot about the value of content and the value of having your own audience as a brand. Now, I think the way for marketers to think about this audience is you don't just think of it in terms of brand love, or you think about it in terms of warm, fuzzy things like that. But the way to think about your audience is this is your pre-customer database. That means they're not buying from you today, they're not buying from you tomorrow, and they may not even be buying from you next week. But if they stick around long enough and they learn to trust you and they learn to develop a kind of loyalty and affinity for you and your brand, then when it comes time for them to buy a product in your category, they can't think of anybody else but you to buy from. If you want to know more about content marketing and how storytelling can help your business, get in touch with me. Or you can look out for my presentations at any of the following events.